Uh, you could feel the temperature rising long before the whistle blew, not just from the game, but from the collision of personalities. Two veterans, two leaders, two men who understand what a single shove or a single jab can do to momentum. What started as a hard-fought matchup between Buffalo and Pittsburgh turned into something messier. Cam Heyward accusing Josh Allen of kneeing him in my stomach. A public call-out that turned a Sunday win into a story about edge, etiquette, and how the NFL polices heat. Here's the play everyone's still talking about. Late in the second quarter, after Allen scrambled and went to the ground, Heyward wound up on top of him. In the pile and on the replay, it looked crowded, messy, the kind of collapse that ends 10 different plays every week. Heyward came up furious. He said Allen kneed him in the stomach. He said Allen admitted as much, telling him later, "I had to do something to get you off of me." Those aren't small words coming from a veteran like Heyward. They land like a challenge. Was it a cheap shot? The TV angles were congested and messy. You didn't get that crystal clear frame where the knee is an obvious no-no. But Heyward's reaction was visceral. He confronted Allen. Tempers flared. Teammates and officials had to split them up. It wasn't just chatter. It replayed all game long. Jawing on the sideline, pushing after a touchdown, an unsportsmanlike conduct flag on Heyward for taunting. The league called one penalty. Heyward walked away, counting another kind of cost: dignity and the feeling of being protected by the rule book. This isn't small drama. It's the sport's oldest tension. Where do you draw the line between competitive toughness and outright foul play? In a sport built on contact, players push that envelope every single snap. Quarterbacks get protection, and defensive linemen get rules that limit how they finish plays. When a defensive star like Heyward feels that protection is one-sided, that the quarterback's being protected and I'm not, it becomes a lightning rod. He's not just mad that the hit happened, he's mad that the cultural fingerprint of the game seems to tilt in favor of one position. That's a microphone you can scream into, and Heyward used it. A couple of things matter here. First, perception. Heyward is an elder statesman of the Steelers. He plays with a certain entitlement earned over years of dominance. When he says something like, "It pisses me off," you don't dismiss it as locker room drama. That phrase carries weight in that building, and it echoes across the locker rooms of opponents. Second, optics. When a saga like this goes public, the perception tends to stick. Fans see the replay, they pick a side, and social media runs the verdict. The Steelers faithful hear Heyward was kneed and immediately imagine a narrative where protect the QB rules have become a shield against accountability. What about Allen? He didn't offer much. After the game, he kept it cool, the classic "I love the competitiveness" talk. And notably, he wasn't asked in his presser whether he admitted the knee. Heyward said Allen told him he meant to do it. If that's true, it's worse than an accidental knee. It's a deliberate tactic. But the game's camera angles and the league's reticence to fine every single borderline incident create a zone of plausible deniability. Without conclusive tape and without the league making a big statement, the story lives in earbuds and talk radio, not in a formal ruling. Now look at the fallout in the game itself. Heyward got flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct later on, when emotions boiled over after Allen's touchdown. He shoved a lineman who tried to intervene and bumped Allen's face mask. That flag cost the Steelers 15 yards and swung field position in a game where momentum mattered. Buffalo scored the final points and won by 19. Stat line-wise, Allen finished 15 of 23 for 123 yards, a touchdown and an interception, adding 38 yards and another TD on the ground. Heyward finished strong with 8 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. But the real statistic here isn't numbers, it's narrative. Who gets the benefit of the doubt when things blow up? Here's a practical angle. Officials try to run the rulebook like a referee's user manual, but it's imperfect. The NFL's accountability office reviews plays, and sometimes it fines, sometimes it doesn't. When a defender says he was kneed, that's the kind of allegation the league can either verify or wave off, depending on angles and intent. But the league is also risk-averse. It doesn't want to ruin Allen's reputation with a rash fine if the footage doesn't clearly support it. So what happens instead? The public stew simmers while the league takes its time. Players feel that delay. Heyward's anger is as much about the possibility of inaction as about the alleged knee itself. There's also psychology at play. When a veteran like Heyward gets riled, he becomes an emotional detonator. Other players feed off it. Coaches have to pull guys back, recenter focus, and be careful not to let a single flash of tempers define a week of practice. On the other side, a quarterback who can laugh off a shove or a charged moment can be both a calming presence for his team and a target in the press. Allen's posture, I love the competitiveness, is the classic quarterback deflection. Minimize, normalize, move on. It works when the team wins. It's a thin defense when accusations hang in the air. What's the right fix? If you believe Heyward, either Allen needs to be held accountable or the league has to be transparent about why it won't. That's the only way to quell these skirmishes. But honestly, the sport also needs clearer boundaries and quicker adjudication. Fans don't want to guess. Players don't want to amass grudges. Coaches don't want to plan around uncertain enforcement. The NFL's current model, review, sometimes fine, sometimes not, is a slow boil that breeds resentment. So where does this leave both men? For Allen, it's a blip if the league declines to punish him. He won, his offense produced, and the narrative recedes into background noise. For Heyward, it's a show of defiant credibility. He's saying loud enough for the league and the public to hear, we're willing to speak up when it feels unfair. That's admirable and dangerous. Admirable because leadership requires a voice. Dangerous because it invites penalties like the taunt flag he took later. In the end, football is about timing and consequence. One heat-of-the-moment shove doesn't rewrite a season, but it does create ripples in locker rooms, in headlines, in how players prepare for the next matchup. If the NFL wants fewer public accusations and more clean competition, it should move faster to adjudicate and make its standards unmistakable. Players want to know the rules. They don't want to guess them. For now, we have a memorable exchange and a story that will follow both players. It's a reminder that every physical victory in the NFL exists alongside a moral and regulatory contest. Who gets protected? Who gets fined? And who gets to be the arbiter of what's acceptable when the game's heat turns personal? That argument is never pretty. It is, however, very much the game we signed up to watch. Did Josh Allen just knee Cam Heyward? That's the question people are shouting about after Buffalo's 26-7 win over Pittsburgh, and the answer, at least according to Heyward, is a furious yes. The veteran Steelers defensive captain told reporters he was ticked off the entire game because Allen kneed him in the stomach during a first-half pileup, and that Allen even admitted afterward, I had to do something to get you off me. ESPN.com, let's rewind the tape. The game was chippy from the jump. These two teams have a physical history, and emotions boiled over late in the second quarter when Heyward and Allen ended up in close quarters after a short run. On the broadcast, it's messy. Bodies, elbows, noise. Heyward says that as he was getting up, Allen put his knee into his midsection, and that exchange sparked jawing and scuffles that continued for much of the afternoon. Heyward was later flagged for taunting. Allen shrugged it off in his postgame comments as competitiveness, but Heyward's annoyance was hardly subtle. ESPN.com. Now, nuance matters. Live action is messy, and camera angles hide a lot. Multiple outlets reported Heyward's claim and quoted him directly, but nobody, not ESPN, not the league, not broadcasters, has shown a crystal clear, definitive slow-motion clip proving intent beyond doubt in the way the eye wants. The visual evidence is messy, and that ambiguity is why this will live in the space between heated game moment and possible intentional act, until and unless the league says otherwise. BleacherReport.com. Here's what we can say for sure. Heyward was upset. He publicly accused Allen of kneeing him, and the officials issued a penalty to Heyward later for taunting, a call that only added fuel to the fire. Allen's public response was much more measured. He praised the competitiveness of the matchup and downplayed any deeper drama, saying sometimes opponents need fire, and that he loves that kind of edge. That contrast, Heyward's blunt anger versus Allen's calm dismissal, is now the dominant narrative thread people are debating on social media. ESPN.com. Why does this matter beyond locker room heat? 2 reasons. 1, quarterbacks are among the most protected players on the field under NFL rules. Anything that even looks like an off-ball jab or retaliatory strike can draw heavy scrutiny. 2, The optics of a star quarterback making contact with a defensive lineman who then gets flagged for jawing doesn't sit well with fans who already complain about perceived inconsistencies in officiating. Heyward's point, "They're protected and I'm not," taps into a broader, long-running grievance. Are some players given a wider berth because of position or profile? That's the debate fans will have until the league makes a definitive ruling. TribLive.com, let's be honest. This is also a personality story. Heyward is a leader and a burnished vet who doesn't mince words. When he says something happened, people listen. Allen is the reigning MVP and a lightning rod whose every move draws attention. Put them together in the same game, and you get friction that writes headlines. That contrast, the hard-nosed interior lineman versus the charismatic mobile franchise QB, makes for great theater.